It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. Craig, shut up. Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
I'm Craig Price, professional bastard. Nice to meet you. It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Melanie Denny joins me to talk resumes. No, I'm not getting a career change. Not yet, anyways, but times have certainly changed since I needed a resume. In fact, one of the first jobs when I came to Houston in the mid-90s was working for an advertising company that specialized in recruitment services. So, believe me, I have seen plenty of resumes, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of resumes. And if you need a resume and you own a time machine, I can make you a great .com boom era resume, and you can go back in time and go get a job. Problem is, that won't work anymore. Things have changed pretty drastically from my understanding, which is why Melanie is joining us today. But before we get to the interview, I just want to remind everyone that you can find the podcast many ways. You can. My first suggestion would be to go to iTunes. They have a new app just for podcasts, so you can search for Reality Check with Craig Price, subscribe for free, and voila, every Tuesday, a new show. Well, almost every Tuesday. 95% of the Tuesdays, a new show. You can also like the podcast on Facebook, and then you follow that, and right on your feed, you will get links to listen there. Things have changed a little bit as far as listening through Facebook. You can go to the Libsyn, Libsyn, the Libsyn app, and if you allow that on Facebook, you can then hear the podcast right through Facebook. It's just one of those weird things that Facebook keeps changing. Every once you get used to it, it completely changes. But so you know what? Follow the show on Twitter instead, @RealityCheckPod. And while you're there, there's a thing that I've created. It's if you follow the podcast list I've created, you can read up to the second tweets from all our guests. Every time there's a guest who has a Twitter handle, boom, I put them on the list. They're there forever. You can see all their tweets as they tweet them. It's a great way to keep getting information from folks that have been on the show in the past, even long after they've been on the show. So, hey, let's fire up the word processors, get our references in order, and listen to Melanie Denny. My sister-in-law just needed her resume updated. And so she obviously came to my wife, who is she's savvy on writing and design. Mm-hmm. But the resumes have changed in the last 5 to 10 years. Right. So what are the big changes that you've seen that the resumes? Because it used to be like a page and a half was a typical resume. Is that still true?
Well, anywhere between 1 and 2 pages, depending on the level of experience that you have. A major executive who's been in his or her field for, 20 or 30 years will legitimately have 2 pages worth of experience to put on a resume. A college student, on the other hand, who may not have so much work experience, it could be 1 page. So it all depends. A page and a half, 1 page, 2 pages. Again, it all depends on the individual and what they have in their background.
And then the objective statement is gone, is from what I've seen.
Gone. Don't do it.
What happened there? Why did the objective? Because I always thought it was stupid that you put an objective statement on there. Because what's my objective? To get a job.
Exactly. Exactly.
My objective is for you to like me and then hire me.
Right.
So what has changed?
The objective statement was so generic. They all sound exactly the same. It was just an extra wordy way to say, hire me, and it didn't really show your value. Now, in this economy, employers need to see your value. Therefore, instead of writing my objective is to obtain a position where I can grow within a company and utilize the skills I've had over the years, instead of saying something like that, you'd put a headline. Who are you? Your brand. And, for example, if you're a marketing professional, you're going to say, experienced marketing professional. And you can maybe even have a subheading that says your specialty, specializing in, a web-based marketing, e-commerce, and social media. So that right away tells the company that you're looking to apply for what you're bringing to the table versus what you want from them.
Right. And I'm here with Melanie Denny. She is a she's a certified professional resume writer. And I think it's valuable now because, say, someone like myself, and thankfully I'm not in a need of a resume right now. I've been self-employed for several years. Mm-hmm. In fact, I know that you should have your resume updated anyways, regardless of your job security.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But with so many people who have had long-term careers that now suddenly find themselves looking for a job, who haven't had to update their resume in years and years, where do they start?
Well, I've had clients who've never, ever had to write a resume in their whole entire lives. And I've had clients who wrote a resume from 20 years ago. And it's all the same. They basically have to start from scratch because a resume, what it was 20 years ago, is not the same document as it is today. And so their first step is to think about what they want. The first step in this whole entire process is to figure out your goals. What do you want? What career path are you looking for? What type of positions will you be applying for with your resume? Once you have an idea of the type of roles that you want to get into, the type of industry, the career level that you're at that point, then you can start by thinking about your background, your skills, all your accomplishments, and catering it to that specific role.
Now, do you have different resumes for different jobs that you apply for, or can you just have a standard one that's kind of quote-unquote generic?
Maybe 15 years ago you could have a generic one, send it out, see what sticks, see who sends, a response. But in this day and age, you don't want to chance it because there's so much competition. It's so easy for you to submit a job application online. You have to stand out, and you have to become that position. So there's no question that you're qualified. There's no question that you are, a marketing professional. If you're sending out a resume for a marketing job and you also want to apply for maybe a project management position because you have some project management background, you need two different resumes because they're two different focuses. And
so do you try to use some of the same lingo and catchphrases? Because that's one of the things that drives me crazy is they always look for buzzwords.
Absolutely.
And so do you have to start, basically you look at the ad or whatever, or the posting, and do you start pulling similar words? Definitely.
Absolutely. Nowadays it's not, send your resume in the mail and a human being looks at it. It's now send it through an online avenue and a computer reads it first. Therefore, the computer is only scanning for those specific keywords. So I can't stress enough how much you need to put the right words, the right verbiage, the right buzzwords, the right lingo in your resume. I mean, the automatic systems that they use, they're so specific, very specific. So if you want a marketing job, you better have the word marketing in there at least 5 times. You know what I mean? And other words that appear in the posting, like you mentioned. If the posting calls for social media expertise, you better have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all your different areas of social media in that resume.
Now, is there a place that you can go to find these keywords? Because it sounds like we're almost like website optimization.
Yeah.
Which for me scares me to death because I'm not good at optimizing my website. Now I'm going to have to do this on something that when I send a resume, that's a very specific job thing. I'm looking for a job specifically. So here's my resume. Where a website is, well, here it is. I'm hoping to draw people to it. It's a lot more passive than actually submitting a resume. And usually, if you're submitting a resume, you're actively looking for a job because you need one right away.
Right.
So is there a place that we can, is Monster.com even relevant anymore?
Oh, Monster.com is relevant. It is definitely relevant. It's one of the, Monster, Career Builder, they're one of the most popular job boards.
Because when I've seen them, when I've seen them, they're just full of, they seem to be full of not automated jobs, but automated postings.
Right, but the quality of jobs are not necessarily, the highest because it's just an influx of jobs. And then, too, nowadays, companies are not paying hundreds of dollars to post their posting. They're now tweeting it. They're now putting it on Facebook. You have to know someone who knows someone. I'm a firm believer in LinkedIn. If you are targeting a certain, company or certain position, get on LinkedIn. Find the people who are working within those organizations. They are on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? So using Monster and Career Builder is easy, but it might not yield the highest results.
Now, LinkedIn their profile is kind of built like a kind of an older school resume. You put in your work experience and things. Have people been using that as a de facto resume instead of actually creating their own? They just send them the LinkedIn profile?
Well, at this point, I don't think LinkedIn has completely replaced the traditional resume. I think it's on its way. I know that the current trend is to put your LinkedIn profile on your resume to drive people to your site, because on LinkedIn you can add a little bit more of a personal touch to your profile that shows employers a little bit more about who you are versus just what you've done. And so having that link is just an extra way to show who you are, show your value, etc. And also, if there's recommendations on LinkedIn. So now you're not just saying that you're great and awesome. Other people are saying how great and awesome you are. So I think LinkedIn, as of right now, it's a great way to complement a resume. It's not necessarily a replacement at this point, even though it's on its way.
Okay. Now, because I used to work for a company that actually created Career Builder years and years ago.
Oh.
About 15 years ago, it was called something else, and then it kind of evolved into Career Builder. Mm-hmm. And there was always the debate back then when I talked to recruiters and things about how far back you should go with your experience. Mm-hmm. So how far back do you go? So because it seems like a lot of employers don't really care what you did 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
They're more concerned about what you did. How far back? The last 5 years? The last 2 jobs? How far back?
10 years is the rule of thumb.
Okay.
I don't like to go further back than 10 years unless there's something very significant beyond the 10 years that you need to show that will add value to the role that you're currently pursuing. Anything more than 10 years at this point in this day and age is outdated.
Yeah, it's ancient history.
It's not the same. It's not the same thing, especially in the IT industry. Technology is it's a speedy thing. I mean, you buy the latest technology today, a month later, it's outdated. So being ahead of the curve is definitely going to increase your chances as a technology, in any field really, because technology is now embedded into any, position that you're in. You're going to have to know some type of computer program, some type of technology. So, being a secretary, even a secretary from 15 years ago is not using the same technology as secretaries today. You have to know Outlook. You have to know, Word, Microsoft. You have to know Excel, versus being able to type was fine before. Right.
And now, when I've seen a couple resumes float past me in the last 5 years, and it used to be it would start off, the person's name. It would be, their objective. Then it would be their personal experience or professional experience,
right.
and then it would be a list of skills. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that people don't really. The experience is great, but they're really looking at skill acquisition. So, how important do we have skills graduated past experience?
I would not say that. No, skills to me is more prominent in technology roles. When you say skills, even if you list your skills, let's say you list, I don't know, a skill, you're skilled at...
we'll say access database, we'll say
yeah,
SQL.
Let's call it, yeah. That's fine. I mean, a technology-based person, yes, they would list their technical skills and they will break it all down because that's important for that specific industry. But a project manager, okay, if you say you have a skill in, deliver your deliverables, or budgeting is a skill. All right, great. Somewhere else in that resume, you need to show the value you brought while budgeting at somebody's company. You understand what I mean? Just listing skills that you have and not backing them up in the resume somewhere else is not going to really wow anyone.
So it's no longer a list, it's more descriptive.
Right.
What you did with the skill.
Exactly. The value you brought with that skill. I'm not saying don't list them. List them, sure. That's a great way to incorporate your keywords, your buzzwords. But you also need to show how you use those skills and what value you brought with those skills.
Now, the problem that we have when it comes to experience is if we have a college student who doesn't have any skills. I mean, they have skills, but they don't have any experience.
Right.
So what would you suggest for a college student scenario? Because that's going to be a totally different situation than someone who actually has some work experience to put down.
Exactly. So now we're not talking about necessarily their skills, but more of their training. What did they learn in the classroom? What special projects did they do? What research did they do in their field? Hopefully, and I stress this to any college student, they pursue an internship, which gives them a little bit of experience in their field. Hopefully, they were involved in extracurricular activities or showed some type of leadership, in organizations around campus. All these things that college students seem to sometimes take, for granted are things to help build your resume, because you're not going to have those specialized skills in that specific industry that you're studying. You have to use your transferable skills. And it's very important that you get some type of experience in that field. Internship, volunteering, all different types of things can help you to build your resume and get some of those buzzwords in. And, as a college graduate, you're looked at as an entry-level employee. So therefore, you're not necessarily required to have 10 years experience in a certain skill, et cetera. So as a college student, you really need to focus on being involved with things that require those transferable skills. So as an entry-level employee, perhaps you need leadership skills. Perhaps you need basic, accounting experience, which you can get from a special project you did maybe in your accounting degree. Those things help build the resume for an entry-level or college student.
Now, do you see that a lot of mistakes? What are the most common mistakes that you see on resumes? Because, when you see hundreds and hundreds of resumes, I've seen people go through resumes. It's almost like flipping through index cards until something grabs them, because there's usually a couple things that jump out at them as just wrong.
Right.
They look at it and go, I don't know what his experience is, and I don't know, but I can just see right there that this person's not going to be qualified.
Yeah.
So what are the mistakes that people don't really realize they're making when they start out making this resume?
Well, I think the first mistake, when you put it that way, where they're just flipping through, first of all, you need to have an eye-catching document. And people take for granted the formatting of their resume. They just kind of slap some stuff together, and, they use a template. Don't use a template. Don't do it. Because guess what? The same template that you have access to, hundreds of other people have used the same template to apply for the same job. So how are you standing out?
Yeah, it makes it look like an application form now.
Exactly. It doesn't reflect you. It doesn't reflect your brand. There's nothing unique about it. Next. So I would say the first mistake is using a template. Don't do it.
Okay.
The next thing is to make sure all your information is correct and updated. There's so many times that maybe you are kind of qualified and maybe they are willing to call you, but then the phone number is missing, or they call and the phone number is disconnected, or the email address doesn't work, it bounces back, or it's missing completely. These are little things that just completely weed you out right off the bat.
And when you're talking about making sure it's accurate, I know it should go without saying, but I'm going to say it because Yahoo CEO didn't realize this. Don't lie on your resume.
Oh.
I mean, people don't think that. You beef it up a little bit, and so what they'll do is they'll add little things that that kind of pad their resume,
right?
And they think that no one's ever going to check,
right? Yeah.
But good companies check.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even down to your job title.
Yeah, everyone likes to pad that title.
Yeah, it is what it is. And titles are different across all organizations, so not necessarily because you were a marketing assistant here that means you were at the bottom of the barrel. It's all about what you brought, the value. What did you bring to that company? And that's why it needs to be accomplished-based resumes. What did you do? You, not anybody who could have done this role, but you specifically. What did you bring to the table? So, I mean, titles can be, they could have called you anything. It doesn't matter.
And I have been called literally everything in my job. Now, there's a lot of new stuff that people put on their resumes that they've never done in the past. One of the things I'm definitely referring to is, and I don't even know if I've seen them around in other marketing aspects. I still haven't bought into them yet, but I know that people are using them. These are what are they, QRT or QTR codes?
QR codes.
QR codes.
Quick response codes. Yes.
Those are those ones that look like a barcode, but they're square. They're kind of you can actually get them to make designs out of them. I've seen them look like the ghosts from Pac-Man. They purposely were able to figure out how to do that, so when they scanned it. But are those something that I've seen on resumes, and I know people use, but are they effective?
I definitely think so. And if, like you say, you haven't bought into them yet, but it's coming.
Oh, I haven't bought into a lot of stuff. So just because I haven't bought into them doesn't mean they're not working. I just think for me personally, it's an additional step. I mean, now I got to either take my phone out. I've got to make sure I have a QR scanner on my phone.
Yeah.
Then I've got to take a picture of it, and it's got to be just right and just angled right. And by the time I finally do, I could have typed it all in and looked it up on my phone.
Perhaps.
But some people
feel that is a quicker way.
Well, that's what they're supposed. I mean, some people live and die by them. I know a previous guest that we've had, who's a social media expert, Gina Schreck, lives. She loves them.
Yeah.
I haven't personally used them, so I don't. I mean, I have, but I haven't used them enough to where I go, oh, this is much more of a preferred method. So that's why I was asking: is this something that can be effective? And what would you be QRing in the first place?
Well, again, it's all about building your brand, right? So once you have a resume in front of someone, they see that QR code. First of all, they're intrigued. Oh, they have a QR code. Interesting. And perhaps they have the QR reader on their cell phone. Maybe they have enough time to actually scan it because you put in the effort to put it on their resume. Let's assume that. So they scan it, and now they have a whole online presence of you, a representation of you that they can go and look at. The services that I offer with my QR code design is basically you get to control what Google results come up via the QR code. So not only do they see a nice headshot of you, your contact information, links to other websites. Maybe you have a blog in your industry. Perhaps you want to link them to your Facebook page, a personal website, whatever. They have that, so now they can read more about you, who you are, not only as a potential employee, but as a person, because they are going to find this information anyway. Why not make it easy for them? Put it on, put a QR code. You can also, through the cell phone, they can see who they're linked to. If the individual who with the QR code chooses to have their LinkedIn profile linked to their code, now the person on the other end can see who they have in common. Oh, she knows such and such, or she's connected to such and such. And that also, it starts just building your reputability, building your credibility. So that's what it's all about.
And if
it's
you have
all about.
And I was going to say, if you have a connection, they can actually reach out to that person and
Exactly.
say, hey, I hear you know Melanie, how is she?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And isn't that how most jobs are? Is usually someone who knows someone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And not just your references who they call, because they're calling a stranger.
Right.
Because I remember when I would get people going, Craig, I know I've never worked for you, and we're just pals. Can you call up? I'm gonna use you as a reference. Well, I can use it as your character reference, but that's about it.
Right. Yeah.
But I know some people who are not as reputable as me.
Right.
And they will say, oh yes, Vandelay Industries, as everyone remembers from Seinfeld. They just made up a whole company. But before we leave, I wanted to let people know that on your website, I see that you have a free critique form.
Oh, yep, absolutely. Critiques are always free.
So they can actually upload their current resume, and then obviously you're not going to fix it 100% for them, but you're going to at least give them ideas of where they can improve.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you?
They can go to my website, is resume-evolution.com. They can find me on LinkedIn, Melanie L. Denny. They can, we have a Twitter account, Resume Evolution, one word. We also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Resume Evolution, one word. I have a personal website as well, melaniedenny.com. I'm all over.
As you should be. Well, I certainly appreciate it. I know this. If anybody had listened to this and doesn't have their resume together, there's a lot they can get out of this. Because like I said, me personally, I don't have a resume, and I haven't had one in years. And then I'm thinking, well, what if I needed one?
Well, for someone like you don't necessarily need a resume, but you need some type of document.
Oh, I send them my book now.
Okay, well,
like, who are you? Here's my book. And then they go, oh, well, I know a little bit more than Craig than I wanted to. But yeah,
you know what? I'll get a book. I'm going to get a book so I can send people my book.
Yeah, it's the most expensive resume that you can get. And it takes a lot of time and effort. But, one of the things that I think, like I said, regardless if you're just coming out into the business world or you have been in it for a while and have a job that you feel is secure, I think a updated resume, how often should you update your resume?
Oh, always. Keep it up to date. If you do something at work and you're proud of it, go home and update it on your resume. Try to at least, I would say once a month, revisit it, make sure it's still up to date, add little accomplishments that you did at work, anything like that, to keep it fresh.
Well, I'm now going to put this podcast on my resume. And,
there you go.
And I appreciate your time, Melanie.
No problem. Anytime, Craig.
That's our show for this week. I'd like to thank Melanie for coming on the show, and as always, I'm constantly on the lookout for great, interesting guests. If you know someone you'd like to see, or in this case, here on the show, email me at craig@speakercraigprice.com. You can also send along comments and questions, but please, stop with the joke emails and the stupid pictures. That's just spam. You're killing me. See you next week.